The barren, crater-pocked surface of Zelphi served as an unlikely meeting ground for the diverse species of the Joint Galactic Coalition, JGC. Amidst the gray dust and rock, the JGC had erected a sprawling base, shielded under energy domes and guarded by sentry turrets. Today, it buzzed with more activity than usual. The arrival of General Varuk was an event of significance. As the commander of the JGC forces, his inspection tours were both feared and revered. General Varuk, a towering figure even among his own kind, the Yitrians, disembarked from his command shuttle with a dignified air. His deep blue skin glistened under Zelphi's dim sunlight, and his 4 yellow eyes scanned his surroundings meticulously. Flanked by his aides, he made his way towards the central command tent. As he entered, his gaze fell upon a group distinctly different from the rest. These were the humans, the newest members of the coalition. They were smaller, less imposing, and there was a simplicity to their gear that seemed almost primitive compared to the advanced armaments of the other species. Yet, there was something in their posture, a readiness in their eyes that spoke of a quiet confidence. "General Varuk, these are the representatives from Earth, our newest ally," introduced Commander Tyrex, the base's operations officer. He gestured towards Captain Lisa Mendoza and her squad, who stood at attention. "Earth," Varuk rumbled, his voice deep and resonant. "A young species, untested in the galactic arena. What strengths do you bring to the coalition?" His question, though direct, carried a tone of skepticism. Captain Mendoza stepped forward. "Sir, we may not have the physical might of the Yitrians or the technology of the Jolnar, but we bring resilience, adaptability, and a strategic mindset that has been honed through centuries of conflict and cooperation." Varuk considered her words, his expression unreadable. "We shall see," he finally declared. "You will be given a chance to prove these qualities on the field. The Craxians are pressing on our borders, and it will not be long before they look towards Zelphi." The rest of the inspection passed with Varuk reviewing the troops and their preparedness. He paused often, asking probing questions and nodding thoughtfully at the responses. As the inspection concluded, the general looked back at the humans who had quietly observed the proceedings. "Prepare your squad, Captain Mendoza," Varuk instructed as he prepared to leave. "You will join the front line soon. It will be a fitting trial by fire." As the general's shuttle lifted off, sending swirls of dust dancing across the barren landscape, the human soldiers exchanged looks of determination. They knew the challenges ahead would be daunting, but they were ready to prove themselves not just to General Varuk or the JGC, but to the entire galaxy. The next morning on Zelphi, the stark white light of the twin suns cast sharp shadows across the training grounds known as the Gauntlet. It was an intimidating array of obstacles and combat simulations designed to push soldiers to their limits. Today, it would be the proving ground for the human soldiers, whose performance was a subject of much curiosity among the coalition forces. Captain Lisa Mendoza stood before her squad, her expression firm, yet encouraging. "This is our chance to show what we're made of," she said, her voice carrying over the hum of the nearby machinery. "Stay sharp, stay together, and let's show them Earth's finest." As the human squad approached the starting line, alien soldiers from various species gathered to watch. The whispers and glances were not lost on the humans, but they tightened their ranks, their resolve clear. The gauntlet began with a physical challenge, a brutal course that included scaling high walls, navigating through laser grids, and dodging automated defense turrets. The human soldiers, lacking the raw physical prowess of species like the Yitrians or the agility of the tree-like Elorians, relied on teamwork and strategy. They boosted each other over walls and coordinated their movements through the grids with precision that surprised many onlookers. Next came the combat simulation, a virtual battlefield where teams had to advance under heavy fire and secure objectives. Here, the humans' tactical skills came to the forefront. They moved in fluid, controlled formations, covering each other and using the terrain to their advantage. Their use of diversionary tactics and feints confused the AI enemies and gradually won the grudging respect of the watching coalition soldiers. General Varuk, who had returned to observe the humans in action, watched closely from a raised platform. His aide, a tactical advisor named Soren, commented, "They lack individual strength, but their collective coordination is exceptional. It's unlike anything we've seen from the other species." Varuk nodded, his eyes never leaving the battlefield. Their minds work like their machines, complex, interconnected. If they can handle real combat as they handle these simulations, they will be a formidable force. The final test of the gauntlet was a survival scenario. Soldiers were dropped into an environment with harsh conditions and limited resources, tasked with not only surviving but also accomplishing a series of objectives within a set time frame. The humans, hailing from a planet of diverse and often harsh environments, excelled. They quickly adapted to the simulated alien terrain, crafting tools and shelters from the sparse materials available. As the day ended and the scores were tallied, the humans had not only surpassed expectations, but had also placed near the top of the rankings. The gathered crowd, initially skeptical, now murmured with a mix of respect and bewilderment. General Varuk approached Captain Mendoza as her team gathered their gear. "Captain, your squad performed admirably today," he said, his voice carrying a rare note of approval. "It seems there is more to humanity than meets the eye." "Thank you, General," Mendoza replied, her team standing proudly behind her. "We're grateful for the opportunity to contribute. When the real test comes, we'll be ready." As the humans left the field, the buzz of conversation among the coalition soldiers was palpable. Words like strategic and innovative floated in the air, a stark contrast to the morning's doubtful whispers. In the command tent, Varuk updated the war plans, integrating the humans more deeply into the coalition's strategies. It was clear now. The humans were not just another species in the galaxy. They were a hidden blade, sharp and ready to strike. As night descended upon Zelphi, the coalition base throbbed with the low hum of energy barriers and the distant whir of patrolling drones. Inside the command tent, General Varuk reviewed the latest reconnaissance data with his senior officers. The atmosphere was tense. Reports had confirmed a large Craxian battle fleet moving towards their sector, a clear indication that a confrontation was imminent. Suddenly, the alarm blared, a shrill, piercing sound that cut through the murmur of discussions. The base was under attack. Craxian forces, known for their ruthless aggression, had launched a surprise offensive. The outer defenses of the base shook under the impact of high-energy plasma cannons, signaling the start of what would be a grueling battle. "Positions now!" Captain Lisa Mendoza shouted to her squad. The humans quickly donned their battle gear, their faces set with grim determination. They had trained for this, and while the simulations were tough, reality bore the harsh weight of actual danger. As they manned their posts, General Varuk observed the humans' deployment. Unlike the other species who relied heavily on their standard combat formations, the humans adapted quickly, using the base's structure to create choke points and ambush zones. Their ability to improvise under pressure was about to be tested. The first wave of Craxian shock troops breached the perimeter. These troops, towering and armored, were a terrifying sight, armed with energy blades and scatterguns. The human soldiers, significantly outmatched in size and strength, relied on their agility and strategic positioning. They opened fire from behind barricades, their shots precise, aiming for the gaps in the Craxians' armor. Amid the chaos, a secondary explosion rocked the eastern wall of the base. A Craxian demolition squad had breached the defenses, creating a new front that threatened to overwhelm the coalition forces. Recognizing the critical situation, Mendoza made a quick decision. "Jackson Ramirez, you're with me!" she called out, selecting 2 of her best soldiers. They moved swiftly, flanking the newly created breach and throwing the Craxians into disarray with a volley of grenades before engaging in close-quarters combat. General Varuk watched the skirmish unfold on the tactical display, his expression one of begrudging respect. The humans were holding their ground, managing not only to survive, but to push back the Craxian assault with a ferocity that belied their size. As the night wore on, the humans not only defended their positions, but also assisted in rescuing trapped coalition soldiers from collapsed debris, showcasing their bravery and selflessness. With every hour, The Craxians grew more frustrated, their initial advantage waning under the sustained and clever resistance of the base's defenders. By dawn, the weary but determined faces of the human soldiers could be seen through the smoke and debris. They had managed to repel the Craxian forces, securing critical sectors of the base and saving countless lives. Their actions had not gone unnoticed. General Varuk approached Captain Mendoza as her team regrouped and tended to their wounded. "Your leadership and your squad's courage have been instrumental tonight," he said, his voice carrying a rare warmth. "You humans are indeed full of surprises." "Thank you, General," Mendoza replied, fatigue lining her features but her eyes still sharp. "We fight for our home in the stars now, just as much as any here." As the sun's first light broke over the horizon of Zelphi, casting long shadows over the scarred landscape, it shone on a changed perception within the coalition. The human soldiers, once doubted and underestimated, had proven themselves not only capable, but essential. They were now not merely participants in the coalition, but pillars of its strength. In the aftermath of the Craxian assault, the coalition base on Zelphi was a scene of controlled chaos. Craters pockmarked the landscape, and the air was thick with the acrid smell of burnt electronics and plasma discharge. As repairs and medical teams worked tirelessly, General Varuk convened an urgent meeting with his top officers and strategists in the battered command tent. "The Craxians will regroup and attack again. We've held them off once, but our defenses are compromised," General Varuk stated grimly, analyzing the latest satellite imagery showing Craxian reinforcements gathering a few kilometers away. Captain Lisa Mendoza, still clad in her battle-scarred armor, stepped forward. "General, give us the night. My team can disrupt their encampment, delay their next push. It might give us the edge we need." Varuk regarded her with a mixture of skepticism and hope. "It's a high-risk operation, Captain. Are your people up for this?" "We are," she replied without hesitation, her team nodding in agreement behind her. "Very well," the general decided. "Prepare your squad. You move out at 2200 hours." As night enveloped Zelphi once more, Captain Mendoza and her select team of human soldiers moved silently through the rocky terrain, using the darkness as their ally. The humans' ability to see relatively well in low light, a remnant of their evolutionary past on Earth, gave them a significant advantage in night operations. Approaching the Craxian encampment, the team avoided patrols and surveillance drones, making their way to the enemy's ammunition stockpile. Their mission was clear: disrupt the Craxian supply line and create chaos within their ranks. Using compact explosives, the humans planted charges around the ammunition depot, timing their detonation to cause maximum disruption. Just as they were set to retreat, a Craxian patrol stumbled upon one of Mendoza's team members, initiating a fierce skirmish. With no time to spare, Mendoza made the call to detonate the charges early. The resulting explosion lit up the night sky, a thunderous declaration of their presence. Amidst the confusion, the human team engaged the enemy in a fierce firefight, their disciplined volleys stark against the panicked return fire of the Craxians. Mendoza's team fought their way back to the extraction point, harried by Craxian forces now alerted to their presence. Each member covered the others, moving with precision and unity, honed by countless drills and the earlier battle. Back at the base, General Varuk and his officers watched through surveillance drones as the human team made their daring escape. Each explosion at the Craxian camp was a blow not just to the enemy's logistical capabilities, but also to their morale. When Mendoza and her team finally sprinted into the base, their bodies were weary, but their spirits were high. They had succeeded in their mission. They were met with cheers from the coalition troops, a chorus of various alien voices united in their acclaim. "You have done more than disrupt the enemy. You have proven the indomitable spirit of humanity," Varuk declared as he greeted them at the gate, his usual reserve softened by evident respect. That night, the human soldiers' bravery and cunning spread through the base. Known now as the Nightfall Heroes, they were no longer just part of the coalition. They were among its most celebrated warriors. The morning following the daring night raid, the base on Zelphi was abuzz with renewed vigor and determination. The Craxians, now reeling from the unexpected blow to their supply lines, were slower to mount their next assault. This lull provided the coalition forces with a crucial window to fortify their defenses and strategize their next moves. In the command tent, General Varuk convened a strategy session with his senior officers and tactical advisors, including Captain Lisa Mendoza, whose recent success had earned her a place at the planning table. The holographic map in the center of the room displayed the surrounding terrain and the positions of enemy forces, now scattered and disorganized. "We have a momentary advantage," Varuk began, his voice carrying a mix of caution and resolve. "The Craxians are vulnerable, but they will soon regroup. We must strike decisively to maintain our momentum." Mendoza stepped forward, the digital map reflecting in her determined eyes. "General, if we could launch a series of targeted strikes against their command centers, we could further disrupt their coordination. My team is ready to lead the assault." Varuk nodded, considering her proposal. "Your tactics have proven effective, Captain. I'm inclined to expand your role in these operations. Coordinate with Commanders Zylok and Thren. Their units will provide you with the necessary support." The plan was set into motion swiftly. Using the cover of the rugged terrain and the lingering chaos within the Craxian ranks, human-led strike teams launched guerrilla attacks on key enemy positions. Their familiarity with rapid, adaptive combat gave the coalition forces the upper hand, allowing them to reclaim territories lost in the initial Craxian onslaught. Amidst a particularly intense skirmish near a Craxian command post, the humans demonstrated not only their combat prowess, but also their strategic intelligence. By capturing the enemy communication devices, they intercepted critical data about Craxian troop movements and supply lines. This intelligence proved invaluable, allowing the coalition to preempt and counter subsequent enemy attacks more effectively. As word of the humans' successes spread throughout the base, morale soared. The coalition forces, inspired by the tenacity and ingenuity of their human allies, fought with renewed energy. The Craxians, struggling to cope with the unexpected ferocity and tactical superiority of the coalition, began to falter. General Varuk observed the unfolding battles from the command center, a hint of pride visible on his stoic face. "These humans," he mused aloud to his aide Soren, "they fight not just with strength, but with spirit. They have ignited a fire within us all." The tide of the war had indeed turned. With each passing day, the coalition, bolstered by human ingenuity and resilience, pushed the Craxians back, reclaiming lost ground and destabilizing the enemy's foothold on the region. In a significant battle that marked the turning point of the conflict, the coalition forces managed to corner a large Craxian battalion in a valley near the base. The humans, leading the charge, employed a combination of aerial drone strikes and ground assaults to devastating effect. The battle was fierce, but the outcome was decisive: coalition victory. In the aftermath, as the troops gathered to assess the damage and tend to the wounded, General Varuk made his way through the ranks, stopping to speak with many of his soldiers, human and alien alike. His stop at Captain Mendoza's side, however, was particularly noted by all present. "Captain, your leadership has been instrumental in these victories," Varuk said, extending his hand in a rare gesture of equality and respect. Mendoza accepted the gesture, her face weary, but her voice steady. "We fight for the same cause, General. For peace, for security, for home." As the sun set over the battlefield, casting long shadows over the weary but victorious soldiers, a sense of unity pervaded the air. The coalition was stronger than ever, a diverse force united by common goals and newfound respect for the strategic prowess and valiant spirit of humanity. The pivotal victory at the Valley marked a significant shift in the war against the Craxians. But the coalition knew better than to underestimate their adversaries. The Craxians were known for their resilience and vicious counterstrikes. Under the dim glow of Zelfi's moons, the coalition forces fortified their position, expecting a brutal response. Captain Lisa Mendoza and her team, now regarded as elite operatives within the coalition, were tasked with a critical overnight mission. The objective was to infiltrate a heavily fortified Craxian stronghold, where intelligence indicated that a major counteroffensive was being planned. As night enveloped the planet, The human team, clad in stealth suits, moved through the alien terrain with silent precision. The darkness of Zelfi's night was punctuated only by the distant rumblings of the Craxian armory, preparing for war. Remember, we're not just here to gather intel. Sabotage is key. We need to throw them off balance, Mendoza whispered to her squad as they approached the enemy lines. Their target was a series of energy generators that powered the stronghold's defensive systems. Navigating through the shadowy outposts, the humans utilized their advanced night vision and silent communication tech to evade patrols. Reaching the perimeter of the stronghold, they deployed miniature drones to map out the layout and identify key vulnerabilities. As they penetrated deeper into the stronghold, the tension among the team was palpable. Every shadow could conceal a threat, every silence could precede chaos. Finally, they reached the generator compound. Planting explosive charges with precision timing, they prepared to withdraw. But their mission was about to take a dangerous turn. An unexpected patrol stumbled upon one of the outer charges. The ensuing alarm threw the stronghold into high alert, and the humans found themselves cut off from their planned exit route. With Craxian troops swarming the area, Mendoza made a split-second decision. "We go through the central command," she ordered, leading her team into the heart of the enemy's lair. The move was risky, but it offered a chance to gather invaluable data and potentially capture high-ranking officers. The fight through the command center was intense. Craxian soldiers, surprised but quick to respond, engaged the humans in fierce combat. Mendoza and her team used their superior tactics to maneuver through the chaos, disabling foes and dodging retaliatory strikes. In the heat of the battle, Sergeant James Park, Mendoza's second-in-command, managed to access a central data terminal. Downloading crucial strategic plans, Park transmitted the data back to Coalition Command, even as the team covered his efforts. With the mission's objectives secured but their situation increasingly perilous, Mendoza gave the order to retreat. The explosive charges detonated, plunging the stronghold into darkness and confusion, providing the cover they needed to escape. Exfiltrating under the cover of smoke and debris, the team raced across the barren landscape as Coalition forces, alerted to their peril, began a barrage against the Craxian positions to support the extraction. Reaching the safety of the Coalition lines just as dawn broke over Zelfi, the team was met with relief and celebration. Their mission had not only disrupted the Craxian counteroffensive, but also provided the Coalition with critical intelligence. General Varuk greeted them personally upon their return. "Your bravery continues to exceed even the highest expectations," he said, clasping Mendoza's shoulder with a warrior's respect. "You and your team have saved many lives tonight." With the critical intelligence gathered from the Craxian stronghold, the Coalition forces gained a strategic upper hand. General Varuk, recognizing the momentum shift, decided it was time to escalate their efforts. The humans, with their unexpected success in previous engagements, were placed at the forefront of this new phase. In the war room, a tense assembly of Coalition commanders and their advisors, including Captain Lisa Mendoza, gathered around the holotable displaying the theater of operations. Varuk outlined the next series of operations, which would combine the strengths of the diverse Coalition forces with the humans' innovative tactics. "We will initiate a full-scale offensive across multiple fronts," Varuk declared, his voice resonating with authority. "The humans will lead our special operations, targeting key infrastructure to cripple the Craxians' war capabilities further." Mendoza nodded, her mind already racing through potential strategies. "We'll need to integrate our tech with the Jolnar's drone fleets for aerial recon and the Yitrian's heavy artillery for support," she suggested, highlighting the need for a unified approach. The plan was ambitious. It involved simultaneous strikes on Craxian communication hubs, supply depots, and command centers across different terrains and conditions. The operations would be coordinated to ensure that while one team struck, another would be ready to exploit the ensuing chaos, a method of warfare that played to the humans' strengths. As the Coalition forces began their preparations, Mendoza trained her team in the combined arms tactics that would be essential for the success of the operations. They worked closely with the other species, each bringing their unique capabilities to the table. creating a synthesis of technology and strategy. The first strike was a daring daytime raid on a Craxian communications hub located in a dense, fog-covered valley. The humans, using cloaking devices and noise suppression technology, infiltrated the area with support from Elorian pathfinders who could navigate the challenging terrain silently. As the humans and Elorians disabled the communication arrays, Yitrian artillery units, positioned on the ridge overlooking the valley, began their bombardment, precisely timed with the sabotage efforts to maximize the impact. The operation was a textbook success, significantly disrupting Craxian operational capabilities in the sector. Emboldened by their victory, the Coalition launched further operations. One particularly intense mission involved a deep incursion into enemy territory to destroy a series of energy reactors. Mendoza's team, along with a unit of Tuscar shock troopers, renowned for their ferocity, engaged the Craxians in a prolonged battle that tested the limits of their endurance and combat skills. Throughout these operations, the humans' ability to adapt and coordinate complex assaults under pressure became a beacon of hope and strength for the Coalition forces. Their innovative tactics and relentless spirit not only led to significant territorial gains, but also inflicted severe blows to the Craxian war machine. As the Coalition celebrated these victories, the Craxians grew increasingly desperate, their responses more brutal and less coordinated. The tide was turning, and every soldier in the Coalition felt the shift. Back at the base, General Varuk convened another meeting to discuss the next phase. The mood was cautiously optimistic. "Your tactics have given us an advantage we haven't seen in this war," Varuk said to Mendoza, acknowledging the critical role of her team. Mendoza, though weary from the continuous battles, felt a surge of pride. "We'll keep the pressure on them, General. This is just the beginning." As they planned their next moves, the Coalition was more unified than ever. The diverse forces, once struggling to find common ground, now operated as a single, formidable entity, thanks to the bridge built by human ingenuity and valor. The gathering storm continued to build, signaling the approach of what they hoped would be the final battles of this grueling war. The relentless pace of the Coalition's offensive began to show results as the Craxian forces, spread thin and demoralized by the continuous setbacks, started to buckle under pressure. General Varuk, sensing the critical juncture they had reached, decided it was time to push for a decisive victory. The next series of operations, planned to be the most audacious yet, would aim to cripple the Craxians' ability to wage war permanently. Captain Lisa Mendoza's team was once again at the center of these plans. Their next mission was to seize a major Craxian orbital defense platform, a key asset that protected one of their primary supply routes through space. If the Coalition could take control of the platform, they could cut off the Craxian forces on Zelphi from resupply, effectively stranding them. The operation required meticulous planning and flawless execution. The Coalition assembled a task force comprising human soldiers, Yitrian heavy assault units, and Tuscar electronic warfare specialists. They trained together, integrating their tactics and technology until they operated as a seamless unit. As the task force launched into space aboard a fleet of stealth cruisers, tension ran high. The orbital platform was heavily fortified, bristling with particle beam turrets, and patrolled by elite Craxian guard units. Mendoza and her team, equipped with zero-gravity combat gear, were the first to breach the platform's outer defenses. The battle for the platform was fierce. Craxian defenders, aware of the strategic importance of their position, fought with desperate ferocity. But the Coalition forces, led by Mendoza's calm command, systematically secured the platform's key sections. They disabled the main weapon systems and disrupted the command network, sowing confusion among the Craxian ranks. Meanwhile, on Zelphi, the main Coalition forces took advantage of the chaos in the Craxian command structure caused by the loss of their orbital platform. General Varuk ordered a full-scale assault, pushing the Craxians back with a relentless barrage of ground and aerial attacks. The combined arms strategy that the humans had perfected played a pivotal role, allowing the Coalition forces to exploit weaknesses in the enemy's scattered defenses. As the orbital platform fell into Coalition hands, A wave of triumphant cheers erupted across the communication channels, echoing through space and down on the surface of Zelphi. The strategic victory dealt a critical blow to the Craxian war effort, effectively turning the tide of the entire conflict. In the aftermath of the battle, as they secured the platform and tended to the wounded, Mendoza took a moment to look out at the stars from the command deck. The weight of their sacrifices and the cost of their victory were not lost on her, but there was also a profound sense of achievement. Back on Zelphi, General Varuk met with his commanders to assess the situation. The Craxians were now in full retreat, their command structure in disarray and their supply lines severed. "This was a decisive victory," Varuk declared, his voice filled with a rare emotion. "Thanks to the bravery and skill of all our forces, and particularly our human allies, we stand on the brink of ending this conflict." The mood among the troops was jubilant, yet tempered by the knowledge of the tough fight they had endured and the friends they had lost. But for the first time since the war began, there was a real sense of impending peace, and with it, a chance to rebuild and heal. As the dawn of potential peace approached, General Varuk orchestrated a final, all-encompassing assault on the Craxian stronghold on their homeworld, a fortress planet known as Craxia Prime. This was to be the decisive engagement of the war, aimed at completely shattering the Craxian military's ability to wage further conflict. Captain Lisa Mendoza's team was once again pivotal, assigned to lead a daring ground incursion aimed at taking control of the planetary defense systems. Success would allow the coalition fleet, positioned in orbit, to provide support without risking heavy casualties from the planet's formidable anti-spacecraft batteries. The night before the assault, Mendoza gathered her team for a final briefing. "Tomorrow, we do more than fight for victory," she stated solemnly. "We fight for a future where our children can look to the stars without fear. Let's make sure we all come back to see that future." The atmosphere was thick with determination and the gravity of their task. Every soldier understood the stakes. They were not just fighting for their lives, but for the countless lives their success could save. The battle began at dawn, with a barrage of heavy artillery fire from the coalition ships in orbit, echoing across the barren landscapes of Craxia Prime. As the ground shook under the relentless bombardment, Mendoza and her team, along with several units of Yitrian shock troopers and Tuscar saboteurs, descended from the troop carriers. They landed amidst chaos, under a sky lit by the explosions of anti-aircraft fire. The Craxians, though battered by the coalition's previous victories, were not broken. They mounted a fierce resistance, utilizing their deep knowledge of the terrain and their remaining heavy weaponry. The battle was brutal and progress was slow. Every inch of ground was contested with ferocity, as both sides knew that this battle could determine the war's outcome. As Mendoza's team pushed towards the control hub for the planetary defenses, they encountered stiff resistance. A Craxian elite unit had fortified their position around the hub, and their counterattacks were relentless. The combat was intense, with close-quarters battles breaking out amid the ruins of blasted fortifications. Meanwhile, General Varuk, commanding from the coalition flagship in orbit, coordinated the various fronts. His voice was a constant presence over the comms, directing reinforcements, calling in airstrikes, and providing tactical advice. He was the calm in the storm, guiding his forces through the chaos of war. After hours of fierce fighting, Mendoza's team breached the defense hub. With the support of her squad, she fought her way to the control center, where they encountered the Craxian commander. A tense standoff ensued, with the fate of the planet hanging in the balance. Words were exchanged, promises of mercy, threats of destruction, but ultimately, it was the resolve in the humans' eyes that convinced the Craxian commander to surrender. With the defense systems under coalition control, the orbital bombardment shifted, targeting military installations and avoiding civilian areas. The Craxian military crumbled under this precise assault, and by nightfall, their command had capitulated. In the aftermath, as the coalition troops secured the planet, General Varuk landed to meet with Mendoza and her team. Surrounded by the debris of a fierce battle, he looked at the soldiers who had been pivotal in the coalition's victory. These human soldiers are indeed formidable warriors, he acknowledged publicly, echoing his private sentiments that had grown over the course of the war. As the first light of dawn broke over the scarred landscape of Craxia Prime, it illuminated the weary but victorious faces of the coalition forces. The battle had been long and brutal, but the outcome marked a new beginning for the galaxy. With the Craxian command structure effectively dismantled and their military assets seized or destroyed, the path to peace seemed finally within reach. In the aftermath of the climactic battle, General Varuk organized a victory ceremony to commemorate the hard-fought triumph and honor the sacrifices made by all coalition species. The ceremony was held at the now-secured planetary defense hub, the site of the decisive skirmish that had turned the tide in their favor. As troops from various coalition species gathered, a palpable sense of unity and relief filled the air. Banners representing each member species fluttered in the gentle morning breeze, symbolizing their shared struggle and collective victory. Captain Lisa Mendoza and her team were among those assembled, their fatigue momentarily forgotten amidst the camaraderie and solemnity of the occasion. General Varuk stepped up to the makeshift podium, his presence commanding silence from the gathered crowd. Today, we stand not as victors over a vanquished foe, but as harbingers of a new era of peace and cooperation, Varuk began, his voice resonating with the weight of the moment. The bravery and sacrifice of every individual who stood with us in this conflict have ensured that our children will inherit a safer, united galaxy. He then turned to acknowledge the humans who had played a crucial role in the victory. I must single out our human allies, whose courage, ingenuity, and tenacity have exceeded all expectations. Captain Mendoza, step forward. Mendoza approached the podium, her team standing proudly behind her. Varuk presented her with a Medal of Valor, a high honor within the coalition. Your leadership and your team's valor have been instrumental in our success, he declared. You have earned not only this medal but the respect and gratitude of the entire coalition. The ceremony continued with the honoring of other heroes from various species, each story adding to the tapestry of courage and resilience that had defined the campaign. The mood was bittersweet, as many had fallen in the pursuit of this victory, and their sacrifice was solemnly acknowledged with a moment of silence. Following the formalities, the assembled troops mingled, sharing stories and hopes for the future. Discussions about reconstruction efforts and diplomatic initiatives to prevent future conflicts were already underway, with humans being key participants in these conversations. As the ceremony concluded and the participants began to disperse, Mendoza and her team took a moment to reflect on their journey. They had come to Zelphi as underdogs, doubted by many, but were leaving as heroes who had changed the course of the war. The return journey to Earth was quiet and introspective. The spacecraft hummed softly as it cut through the vastness of space, carrying the soldiers back to their home planet. Mendoza looked out at the stars, thinking about the future. They had fought fiercely for peace in the galaxy, and now they would be part of building that peace. Upon landing, the team was greeted with cheers and tears from families and fellow soldiers. The Earth, their home, now seemed a little safer, a little brighter. As they disembarked, the weight of their achievements and the memories of those lost weighed heavily on them, but there was also a sense of hope. Mendoza and her team had not just fought a war. They had helped forge a new path for humanity among the stars, demonstrating the strength and spirit that humanity could bring to the galaxy. As they stepped onto home soil, their legacy was already taking root, inspiring the next generation of soldiers and peacemakers.